your time.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you for your introduction. Thank you to our Ukrainian colleagues as well. So basically, thank you everyone for coming to this webinar. This is an overview of the import processes in the for goods coming into the United Kingdom market. And Elizabeth, when you're ready. So um, thank you. So we've done a couple of slides on the UK trading statistics as well as the Ukraine trading statistics, and these are just for information purposes. And if you look at the slide, it basically shows the statistics that we have for imports into the United Kingdom from non-EU countries and EU countries. Leading at the moment is China at 13% of all imports, followed by Germany. So as you can see, there is still room there for other participants, for other countries to engage in imports into the United Kingdom. On the bottom of the slide, on the left-hand side, you've got the sources of information. So you can look at those sources of information when you have time, because they are quite detailed and they will give you a lot of information. So do click on those links and use the information there. It will give you a much clearer picture. In the time frame we have, it's not enough to go through every detailed slide. So next slide, please. So the statistics show that the imports, obviously, generally are the highest ones are pearls, precious stones, metals, and the lowest is miscellaneous chemical product. But you can see there is still plenty of scope there for Ukraine to send or export their products into the UK. Next slide, please. So this one is specifically to, if you go back one, please. So this one actually, this slide shows the statistics for imports into the UK from Ukraine up to the end of 2021. And these were just over 1 billion, but just below 1.2 billion. So that's quite high. The imports went up quite considerably from 2020 in 2021, and unfortunately we don't have any information on 2022 purely because of the war. So hopefully that will change soon. Again, with the sources of information for all this is on the bottom left of the slides, and do look at them when you have some time. So the biggest category of imports into the UK from Ukraine has been iron and steel, followed by animal, vegetable fats and oils, and cleavage products. So again, there is plenty of scope there for the Ukrainian markets to come into the UK with their different products. And from that, we will now move on to doing an overview of the imports processes into the UK. So this slide is aimed at people who are either already in the UK or Ukrainian businesses that want to set up in the UK and wish to import from the Ukraine. The first thing that you're required to do is obtain a UK EORI number. Businesses that are already in the UK and trade internationally will already have an EORI number. If you're setting up a business in the UK, you will need to apply for an EORI number, and that's primarily to help you with your import and export. It's not a difficult process. If anybody does want an EORI number in the UK, please contact Elizabeth and we will be able to assist you with the application. So next, and then the next one is the seller readiness. Is the seller ready to export? So when I'm talking about the seller, I'm talking about the Ukrainian seller. Is he ready to export? You are ready to export if you have a product which is established in your home market, it is selling well in the domestic market. So what you have to look at is creating a business model for exporting. And it should be aimed at people who want to either import into the UK from Ukraine or who want to set up a business in the UK to import from the Ukraine. You need to look at, will your product be received well in the UK? Is there a market for it? Have you had online inquiries for your products? And those will be good indicators that people are interested in your product. Can you sell your product as it is, or do you need to modify it in any way? And you obviously have to look at all the other things that relate to your product. If it's a food product, will it meet the guidelines of the UK market and the UK government? So those are little things that you need to investigate beforehand to ensure that your product is successful in the UK. And obviously, if you come up against a negative scenario, don't give up, because persistence is the key to unlocking your potential, the potential for your product. You know, the war is an unfortunate scenario, but use it as an opportunity to diversify your markets, increase your sales, amplify your product or brand. It is an opportunity. So let's work on that and, you know, expand into a new market. It obviously means there's less dependency on the home market, which is also valuable, but it's also important to be able to import and export. You've also got to look at whether the goods will require licenses or certificates, whether they are controlled goods. So controlled goods are usually goods which have a dual use to them. This can be software, technology, and these are generally goods that can be used for both civilian and military applications, or for making armaments or torture goods. Example, aircraft parts can be dual use. They can be used in civilian aircraft or in military aircraft. And obviously there are some chemicals which have a purpose to it other than just for a straightforward day-to-day use. You would be surprised how many things there are that we use on a day-to-day basis which have another purpose to them. So if you are dealing with any goods which may come under the controlled or restricted label, you will need to obtain licenses from Ukraine for export of these. You need to check with your authorities to see what licenses, if any, are required. In the UK, licenses are required for imports of plants, animals, products of animal origin, veterinarian medicines, controlled drugs, tissues and cells for human application, for example, collagen, waste products. And this by no means is the full list. HMRC have a very long list. If you do need assistance in trying to understand whether your product comes under that category, please come back to us and we'll try and assist you. The next item is the classification of your goods. Now, when you classify your goods, you would normally use the harmonized system nomenclature, which is short, you know, in short, it's known as the HS code or the tariff code or the tariff code. They are product specific and are used worldwide for the uniform classification of goods which are traded internationally. They help to identify duty rates, whether there are any preferences there, any restrictions, if there are any license requirements, etc. And these are set by the WTO and the WCO. So the first 6 digits are the same internationally. It's a 10-digit code. The first 6 are the same internationally. The last 4 digits are specific to an individual country's requirements. Digits 7 and 8 will identify the duty rate. Digit 9 and 10 will be used for data collection. You then need to decide who is going to do your customs declaration. Is it going to be a customs broker or an agent? Or it may even be your freight forwarder who can do the customs declaration for you. In any event, if you get stuck with a customs declarations, at the London Chamber of Commerce, we have a customs declaration team that specifically focus on this. So come back to us and we can always help you. The next bit is, what is the seller responsibility? When we talk about seller responsibilities, you need to make sure that you have a contract, a written agreement in place that identifies what the responsibilities are for the buyer and what the responsibilities are for the seller. And you would generally rely on Incoterms. Incoterms 2020 are the latest version. And there are 11 Incoterms there. So the X works, I'm not going to go into too much detail because that's a whole webinar on its own. So X work is the one which is the least risk to the seller. Then you have category F, which is FCA, FAS, FOB, which are low risk to the seller. Category C, which is CFR, CIF, CPT, CIP, which are medium risk to the seller. Category D, now this is the one that has the greatest responsibility and risk for the seller. And this includes delivery, the product is unloaded, and in some cases in DDP, the duty is paid as well. So you need to clarify exactly what you are able to do and what your buyer's responsibilities will be. Next slide, please. So then you need to determine the customs value of the goods. The customs value, so in the UK, we have 6 valuation methods, but the one that is most commonly used is the valuation method 1. And that's the one we will talk about. And this is a standard method of calculation. You have to have the transactional value of the imported goods. And by that, we mean the actual price that has been paid by the buyer for the goods. This should include the transport and insurance costs, the packaging costs, any royalties or license fees, any agency fees. If you don't give the true price, customs are within their powers to assess your goods and give it a price according to their understanding. So it's always best to give an accurate price. Where you're unsure, make that clear that you're not sure, but you think it may be between this range and that range. So the next one we have is preferential duty rates, and following that immediately is the origin of goods. These two go hand in hand. So the preferential duty rates are normal, beg your pardon, they are lower than normal duty rates. And this usually happens where there's a trade agreement in place, which allows you to claim preference. And the statement of origin, and that's usually based on the origin of the goods, unless there are exceptional circumstances and something different has been agreed. So when there is a statement of origin preference being claimed, you have to then, the seller has to provide the buyer with an origin declaration, which says we are claiming preferential origin because our goods are manufactured in the UK, in the Ukraine, and we are exporting those to the United Kingdom, are wholly manufactured in the Ukraine. If you import products into Ukraine from China or any other third country, and then you export those products to the UK, that will not be classified. You cannot claim any preference on those goods because they are not Ukrainian origin goods. So you will be paying duty in your own country for those goods, and when they come to the UK, you will pay duty on them again. So anything that you would export from Ukraine should be Ukrainian origin. And the rules around origin are quite complex. And if you're not sure, please come back to us and we will try and if we can't answer it, we will try and put you in contact with one of our trusted advisors who may be able to guide you through the process and through how origin works. The next is labeling requirements. Now, the requirements changed on the 1st of January 2021. As some of you are probably aware that we had the CE marking on products, on finished products. This has now been replaced by the UKCA conformity assessed marking. And you have until the 31st of December 2024 to comply with this. Different rules apply to different products because you obviously have the local trade associations for those particular products that will have an input into this as well. So in basically any products that were in the UK before 11 p.m. on the 31st of December 2020 don't need to have anything new for the individual product. They don't need to be reassessed. If a compliant product that is already marked with the CE is on the GB in the UK market before the 31st of December 2024, again, you don't need an additional assessment and it can continue to circulate on the UK market, but you will need to prove You will need to provide proof that they were in the UK before the 31st of December 2024. Products that are going to be used for further manufacturing would be then the sole responsibility for the UK manufacturer to have those assessed and marked before they're put on the UK market, because the finished product will be manufactured in the UK. So the different rules for machinery that's partially manufactured and spare parts, you would need to check the individual categories for those. Record keeping is where you are required by customs to keep your records for them to audit, and it's usually 6 years plus one. When we talk about 6 years plus one is, so if we were to go, if HMRC were to audit us now, we would have to make available to them our records from the end of 2016 plus this current year, so it'll be a total of 7 years. And the compliance, record keeping is part of the compliance as well. And due diligence is where you need to provide correct information to customs. Your tariff codes must be correct. You must retain the documentations, and it is responsibility of the declarant, whether it's the importer or the exporter, to provide the correct information from start to finish. As you can appreciate, there's a lot involved in there. Your license requirements must be met. And everything must, when you're talking about due diligence, you need to provide the correct information for whoever's doing your customs declarations to be able to do the job successfully. And the thing to remember is that ultimately the provider of the information is held responsible for the information correctness. So the next three slides will be handed over to Eco. So I beg your pardon. We will, just to recap, you need to be looking at the tariff classification, the rules of origin, the Incoterms, trading risks, buyers' cautiousness, political conflict, and payment methods. Payment methods can be, you need to decide whether you are going to get paid by a letter of credit, payment in advance, payment against documents. So you need to determine all this when you do your start building your relationship with your buyer. And finally, we also have aid projects, work that's been done in the background with the government. And these are basically aimed at reconstruction projects. The situation changes on an almost daily basis. So the advice is to please check the government website for further information. So the next three slides will be Ego's responsibility. So thank you very much for giving me your time.
Igor, you're on mute.
Thank you, Sujit. Sorry about the mic. I'd like to talk now about two free trade agreements. One which came to power 2 years ago, which is Ukraine-UK free trade agreement. And the second document hopefully will be signed at one of the big events on March 20. It was announced just 2 days ago by UK's Department for Business and Trade. I'm talking about digital free trade agreement between the United Kingdom and Ukraine. Right, so my intention is to give you some basic overview about the agreements. There are some specific details related to specific sectors or products. So wherever your product is belong to, just need to double check. So the Ukraine-UK free trade agreement simplifies mutual access to the public procurement market and creates a stable and predictable trading environment for businesses in Ukraine. This can reduce business costs and make Ukrainian goods and services more competitive in the UK market, potentially leading to increased revenue and expansion opportunities. The Ukraine-UK Digital Trade Agreement creates a free trade environment for digital goods and services, benefiting businesses in the technology sector. As I mentioned, there are some hopes and signs will be signed in a few weeks' time. The agreement also sets out a framework for the UK and Ukraine to work together to ensure that digital identified action systems of the two countries are consistent, providing a more secure and reliable means of identifying customers and ensuring compliance with regulations. This can benefit businesses in consistent, providing a more secure and reliable means of identifying customers. There are news. Oh yeah, I told you about the news about March 20, the event called Road to URC. It will gather some 150 to 200 participants in London. Event will be related to setting an agenda for a major recovery conference in June, which will be held also in London. So both agreements aim to promote investment between Ukraine and the United Kingdom, creating opportunities for Ukrainian businesses to access UK capital and technology and to expand their operations. This can contribute to the growth of the Ukrainian economy and help companies to increase their competitiveness. The agreements cover a wide range of sectors, including agriculture, automotive, manufacturing, technology, and services, creating opportunities for businesses across different industries to benefit from increased market access, reduced cost, and improved regulatory frameworks. The agreements can help businesses in Ukraine diversify their export markets, reducing their dependence on traditional markets and increasing their resilience on economic shocks. This can create new business opportunities for Ukrainian businesses in particular. The next thing I'd like to highlight is the cooperation with Ukrainian Chambers of Commerce and Industry. Our memorandum of understanding has been signed on last January on our trip to Ukraine. Elizabeth, if you can switch the slide to 11.
It's on the MOU between UCCI and LCCI now.
Yeah, MOU, good. So yeah, the MOU set a roadmap for our cooperation with Ukraine, for our better understanding of Ukrainian businesses' needs, for better support London Chamber can provide for Ukrainian companies. One of the first steps we agreed on, we are providing the initial free membership in the London Chamber for companies from Ukraine who are looking to enter UK markets or want to cooperate with UK companies. There are plans to have 2 trade events each year in each country. Next event we're planning to have a part of the Liverpool. I will talk about it later. The first major event we are planning to have will be related, hopefully, to energy sector in June. There are some discussions with the UK government officials to set it as a part of official agenda of the major recovery conference. Second event, the idea is to have a trade mission to Ukraine later this year, by potentially in the 4th quarter. The idea is to bring some group of the mission of potential UK buyers to arrange some meetings with potential Ukrainian suppliers. We also agreed to set a joint commission between the Ukrainian Chamber and London Chamber to work closely to facilitate cooperation between businesses in Ukraine and UK. And this is basically all. The most valuable part of this conversation would be questions and answers, I suppose, because I'm pretty sure there will be many of those questions. And if I can pass over to Elizabeth to summarize.
Thank you, Igor. Right, before we finish the presentation, I'd like to share with you some of the work that the Chamber carries on a daily basis. We have a full events calendar through the year. We run over 200 events. Might they be face-to-face events, webinars, online trainings. And here in this slide, you can see some of the international trade most relevant webinars for the Ukrainian companies. These webinars are all related, as I said, to international trade. They are, of course, more focused into UK businesses. However, some of them they do share information that is relevant to international traders. For example, tariff classification, Incoterms, general import information, and so on and so forth. These events are free to attend. They are all online. The only requirement that you need to follow is to register as a community participant, and this is free of charge. As I said before, we are going to be sharing the slides with you all, so you will have the links there in case you want to register to attend any of these webinars. Again, as I said, these are only few of the many other events that we run through the year. And finally, as my colleague Sujit mentioned just before, we on the International Trade Department, we run a scheme that is called Trusted Advisory Service, in which we collaborate with partners, with other member companies closely. We work with them closely to support businesses in inquiries or services where we might not be able to assist them internally. One of these companies is our trusted advisor, Interpolitan. This company specializes on business expansions and international banking, and they are also joining the efforts to support Ukraine businesses. They can help you if required with general information on how to set up a business in the UK, how to expand your Ukrainian business into the UK, how to open a bank account into the UK, because as you might be aware, to open a bank account here, you have to have a physical representation, and therefore a lot of companies do struggle with that. Interpolitan, they do can help with this type of inquiry. So if you have any questions, or if you would like us to give you and to facilitate an introduction with this trusted advisor, please drop us an email, and we will be more than happy to do so. Now, the Q&A session. If you have any questions, I'm going to go through the chat, though I don't think there's been many. Andre, and please forgive me if I mispronounce your names. Can we have the original PDF of the webinars? Yes, you will receive the copies of the slides. Just make sure that you send us your email address on the chat box so that we can add you to the distribution list. And then Alex is asking, and I think this is more for, this is going to be your homework, Igor. He's asking, in the summer of this year, a forum on post-war investment in Ukraine.
I answered just now.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I just noticed.
So Alex, probably Alex meant major recovery conference in June. I was talking about. The organizers are both governments, so most of the questions will be related or directed to the government officials. There is another event in March, on 20th March, I mentioned. We will set the agenda for the major conference, and as far as I know, there are so far I know about 3 independent team working on some business events related, but not connected to the major conference in June. So June will be quite hot in London, especially if you talk about the supporting Ukraine and cooperation with Ukraine. Some more questions?
I don't think there's more questions, but I mean, from what
so
you
many
spoke
emails.
yeah, that's really good though. That's really good. And as I said before, and I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but if you have, because I know that there's going to be a lot of questions, but that they might be very specific and you might not want to ask them in front of the whole audience, please, by all means, feel free to drop us an email on the trade inquiries at londonchamber.co.uk. Subjit and I manage that email address, and we will make sure that if it's something,
question.
yes, exactly. If it's a specific question, we can answer it on a separate session, individual sessions. That's not a problem. Or if there's something that we can't help directly, we can, we can direct you to the right trusted advisor to assist you on whatever you might need. Now, which type of certificate of origin is required for exporting products to the UK, EUR1 or a general form? To export into the UK? Well, that will really depend on the origin of the goods. If your goods are made in the Ukraine, then yes, you will to facilitate preferential duty rates to your importer, to your buyer in the UK, you will need to provide them. I believe it's an EUR1, and that will have to be issued in the Ukraine. I'm pretty sure that that will be issued by one of your local chambers of commerce, issued there. And though I'm not actually 100%
I
sure
think
here,
the
because I know that,
the
yeah.
EUR1 certificates are now issued by the customs in Ukraine.
Oh, I see. Yeah. And the reason why I say this is because in the UK, chambers of commerce, along with local customs, we are in charge of producing EUR1s. But yes, in that case, if customs is in charge of producing EUR1s there, then you will have to contact them. And what you will need to provide them with is going to be your commercial invoice, a packing list, and then, of course, if they require it, you will need to provide them as well evidence of the origin of the goods, though this is rare. You will have to make a declaration on the EUR1 certificate, just confirming what the origin of those goods is. And of course, to access an EUR1, you will need to know, as I said, first of all, the origin of the good, just make sure that it's actually made in the Ukraine, and also the tariff code for your goods. I hope that answered your question, but if you have any other questions, please feel free by all means to open your microphones if you'd rather ask the question live instead of just writing it down. And Igor, I know that some of the audience here might not speak English fluently, so if you
I'll wrap
want
it
to
up.
translate the offer as to asking the questions, and then you can actually translate for
Yeah, if you excuse me, I will wrap it up in Ukrainian, so to ensure everyone understands. Oh, we have a raised hand. Natalia?
Yes, hello everyone. Thank you so much, Elizabeth and the team for the presentation. I have a question regarding actually the research of partners. I represent a company that is a Ukrainian producer and manufacturer of the smart ventilation system, which is patent almost in all European countries, and we already are present in London. We have a dealer there with whom we collaborate, but we actually would like to have also the possibility to collaborate with engineering and building companies, maybe with some ventilation association. Would you be able to advise us on that, or to advise in which direction we should search in order to meet such partners? Thank you so much.
Yes, definitely. I believe that will be part of the MOU that we have signed with the Ukrainian Chambers of Commerce as well. Igor, correct me if I'm wrong. Part of the membership with the London Chamber, what we do is we connect companies. So if you're looking to connect with related companies to your sector here in the UK, yes, we definitely can look around in our member network and see if there's anybody there that can help you. Otherwise, we can also point you to business associations that might specialize in that particular sector. But if you don't mind, just drop me an email on the trade inquiries at London Chamber, and I'll be more than happy to take over that.
Thank you so much.
And
We'll do
it's
after.
also worth to mention our co-events we are organizing with the Ukrainian chambers. The next will be in April, set to be in Liverpool. As you mentioned, that 4 chambers from UK joined the efforts. A part of the London chamber, we have a Liverpool chamber on board, as well as Manchester and the Preston chambers. So they all three representing British Midlands, the industrial region of the country. Potentially might be even better to look for potential partners than London. And if you can contact our colleagues from Ukrainian chambers, they will pass you some information how to participate in the event. And we will be happy to see you on board in Liverpool.
Thank you.
Just 3 weeks before the Eurovision Song Contest.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this information.
No problem. So if you have no more questions, may I suggest I wrap it up? Oh, cannot
Yeah.
statistical prices in UK.
Statistics on prices. Again, that is a service that we could possibly provide through our membership. Igor, would you like to just briefly mention how the membership with the Chamber for Ukrainian Companies works? Because we do have one of the benefits of being a member of the Chamber does include.
It's a regular membership.
Oh, right, yeah. Yes, we can produce reports. I'm not sure about statistics, but yes, we can produce reports and databases for our members. They do. We do offer, I believe, is up to 200 contacts.
Yep.
But yes, we can produce those ones. Otherwise, we can also direct you to the companies where you can obtain this information for. For example, the British Library, they do have a vast amount of information resources. And there's also some other companies that can provide this type of information. Even including at the beginning of the presentation, we referred you on the statistics, we referred you to some of these web pages. Let me see. Trade Economics, that's one of the web pages where you will be able to find some information relevant to prices and trading and the goods that are traded between between Ukraine and the UK. So you might want to take a look at these websites. Otherwise, same thing, please drop me an email and I can send you some links with some of the web pages that we regularly use to gather this type of information.
Thank you.
Not a problem at all.
Yeah, looks like all. Right, so I'll switch to different language then. Колеги, дякуємо, що долучилися до нашого вебінару. Зрозуміло, що багато питань можуть виникнути після того. Ми будемо завжди раді відповісти. Ну, комунікації ми намагаємося вибудовувати за допомогою наших колег в Україні. Я знаю, що тут представники багатьох областей, тут не тільки Київ зібрався сьогодні. І, власне, в кожній області є торгово-промислова палата. Ми зі всіма дружимо. Намагаємося централізовано оперувати інформацію, оскільки запитів буває дуже багато. Тому можете сміло користуватися контактами, які сьогодні були поширені. Але перш за все рекомендую завжди звертатися в торгово-промислову палату в Україні. В місті, в якому ви знаходитесь, там завжди, до речі, питання стосовно там рівня цін, статистики базової, думаю, завжди можна вирішити на місці, не звертаючись нікуди далі. А для тих компаній, які мають намір продовжити свій шлях в Великобританії, я думаю, що ми завжди знайдемо, чим ми зможемо бути корисні. Всім дякуємо за увагу і до зустрічі. Looks like we are thanking and wrapping up.
Thank you very much, everybody. And
Thank
we
you,
do
Sujit.
hope that
Thank you,
the
Elizabeth.
information we shared was useful. And again, feel free to contact us over. Thank you so much and have a lovely day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you.